morning, everyone. This is B8EAB1B1B, Scaravelli-inspired teacher here on the Côte d'Azur, where it is pouring with rain at the moment and very dark and dismal outside. I'm not complaining. It means that I won't have to water my plants for quite a few months now, I should think. Plus, it's supposed to be sunny again on Friday, so there we go. I'm sorry it's been so long since my last yoga snippet. Life has kind of taken over a little bit. Well, to be perfectly honest, I've rediscovered my love of knitting and I've become a little bit of a knitting junkie. So I'm trying to wean myself off, and here I am. Before I start with today's snippet, I just wanted to say a couple of things. It's school holidays at the moment here in France, so I've not been teaching as much as I normally do. There are classes next Monday and Wednesday at 9 o'clock in the morning in Roquefort. Actually, Monday is 8:45 and Wednesday is 9 o'clock. So if you fancy popping along, getting away from the kids or the weather, whatever, then we'll be there. Otherwise, classes start up again normally on Monday the 6th. And I did want to announce a new class which is going to take place on Thursday evenings as of that week at the glorious Shanty Life, 6:45 till 8 o'clock in French. Now, I already have one class in French on a Wednesday morning in Roquefort. But this is a new class that I'm really excited about because it's in this gorgeous new space that we're all enjoying so much. And so if you do have any friends, obviously anybody is welcome to any of the classes, but if you have any friends who've kind of been put off in the past because they're not so sure of their English, then do please let them know. It would be lovely to be able to fill that class and pass the message on in French as well. The only other piece of news, I'm about to start publicising my next workshop, which will be on Saturday the 23rd of November, 9 a.m. till 12 noon, again at Shanty Life. We had such a fantastic time there back at the beginning of October, and so do let me know. It's a little bit further away, 23rd of November, but last time the workshop filled up pretty quickly, so yeah, don't take too long in deciding whether or not you'd like to come. So that's, I think, it for the news. I'll put links to my website where all of that information is below. Oh, the other thing I was going to say was, just in case you've never been to a class, perhaps you don't even know me, I did a few months ago now do a little kind of presentation of what Scaravelli yoga is, which you can either find further down on this page, or again it's there on my website if you'd like to read in English or French about Vanda and her work, or watch that little video of me speaking in English. So today, very simple. I just wanted to look at how to lift your head when you're on the ground. It's something that we used to do thoughtlessly when we were babies and children, but we become very scared about our necks. We think of them as these very delicate, slender little stalks. But there's a different way of approaching something that, as I say, seems so simple. And it ties in with the way that we work in Scaravelli yoga. That is to say, when we think about our extremities, and for me those extremities are 2 legs, 2 arms, and the neck and head, rather than imagining those extremities beginning at the joints, so the shoulder joints, the hip joints, or whatever neck joint, I suppose, we think about them sprouting, I love that word, as they did when we're in the womb, from the spine. So when we take an arm out, for example, rather than taking a short arm out from this shoulder, we think about that arm being much longer and coming from the spine through the shoulder. The other thing that we're wary of is, rather than kind of pulling that arm from the tips of the fingers, working in that way, which is going to create tension, you can feel that going up through my neck already, rather than pushing out through the ends of the extremities, again, we think more about those extremities feeding back towards our central spine and then growing from there. So it becomes a very different feeling. And so when we're thinking about lifting the neck, or lifting the head rather, from the ground, again, rather than lifting from the crown of the skull and thinking of the neck as this little short thing, we visualize that neck too as coming from the spine. I kind of think about that place just behind the tummy button, but you could think about it coming from much deeper, from down inside the pelvis. And that, as in all of our other postures, will immediately give you a sense of lightness and ease and a different way of moving into a posture. So let me show you. So you're lying on the ground. Now, what people often tend to do then is, when you think about lifting the head, they want to lift from the head, and that's immediately putting strain, I don't want to hold it there too long, putting strain onto my neck and onto my shoulders. Whereas, if you take the time, it's one of my mantras, take the time, there I'm connecting my feet and remembering their connection with my spine. They're travelling from their contact with the ground, the feet travelling back through the ankles, the knees, the hips to the spine. And then I'm going to think about the crown of the skull in the same way. The crown of the skull travelling back, down through the neck, down through the spine to the place where the neck is born. And if I then kind of press that place into the ground, then the body just lifts. And there's nothing in my shoulders or my neck. If it does, if it does get tiring, then move around a little bit, make sure that everything is free. Remember, it's in the release of tension that these postures will open rather than in the creation of tension. If it's still tiring, put your head back down. And one of the things to avoid, I see people often who might start off in the right place by pressing down through the spine, allowing the head to lift, and then they get a little bit tired, so they put their hand behind the back of the skull. And I would recommend not doing that, because you'll have a tendency then to pull on your head, which is not what we want to do at all. So if you do need a bit of extra support, put your hand or your hands onto the top of your skull so that you can kind of reignite or remind yourselves of the skull's connection to the spine. I find that a lot more helpful. So, I use that lifting of the head in several postures. Also I can use that awareness in headstand and shoulder stand, but that's for another time. One of the postures that I often practice is drawing a knee into the chest, which again, nothing is mindless in this practice. So if I'm thinking about drawing a knee into the chest, I want to create space first in the groin. I want to remember that connection between my foot and the spine. I then want to lengthen the thigh over that space that I've created. I want to make sure that my hands are just resting there. I'm not using them to pull. Again, that's going to create tension. So I just want to make sure that my shoulders are lovely and free, my neck is lovely and free. And again, by focusing on pressing down through the base of the spine, the head can lift here, and then you might want to straighten that leg away from you. Again, you never have to feel that you're doing a posture and that you need to be static in that posture. Explore it, move around inside it. The other time that I'd like to lift my head is when I come into this kind of a posture, working more into that right hip and buttock, or indeed in these lovely leg openers, which I looked at in a previous yoga snippet. I might come back to, because I think the quality wasn't fantastic that day. So, and this is such a fundamental part of my practice, this playing around inside those hips, inside those shoulders, inside that neck. So there you go. Hopefully that might be helpful either to your yoga practice, or you know, if you do a lot of Pilates, then just that little extra awareness of how to lift the head without using the neck and the shoulder muscles. As I say, hopefully that might help with that. So there you go. I shall love and leave you for now. I will really try to be here again next week. No excuses, no knitting excuses, and look forward to hearing from you if any of those things that I mentioned earlier are of interest, either the classes next week or classes when we start back again at the beginning of November, or indeed the workshop, 3 hours. Don't let that put you off. I can't tell you how fast that time goes. So I leave you, as always, wishing you peace. Shanti.